My best friend Cecilia Vick loved me so much she hooked up with my husband Luther Boyd in the pajamas I bought her, then sent me the video. Did you enjoy it? I left her on read after watching that trash fire masterpiece. I posted it online for $20. Sharing is caring, right? Then I put my phone on airplane mode and headed into the mountains with my team for fieldwork. Week later, I turned my signal back on. Boom, 999 plus messages. Then Cecilia called. She was full on spiraling. I'm begging you, delete the video now. Cecilia's voice blasted through the phone, raw and ragged. Jolene, please delete the video. I lounged back in a chair at the lodge, tracing the rim of my coffee mug. Why would I do that? Honestly, the video is not bad. Good lighting, good angles. Seems like a waste to delete it. Besides, you sent it to me. I don't keep things that aren't worth something. Silence. 2 seconds later, she lost it. Do you even know that's illegal? Jolene Johnston, what the hell is wrong with you? Luther and I are in love, and you still tried to destroy us. I was so stupid to be your best friend for 7 years. I laughed. Best friend on my 3rd wedding anniversary? She'd climbed into bed with my husband wearing the silk pajamas I'd bought her for her birthday, in my bed. Then she'd recorded it and sent me the video. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, real best friend behavior. She stabbed me in the back, then somehow turned herself into the victim. Jolene, did you hear me? Say something. I held the phone to my ear. Then wasn't it illegal? For you to send me a private video of my husband just to piss me off? Want me to call the cops and ask whether that counts as distributing obscene content or violating someone's privacy? Dead silence. Then the call disconnected. Cecilia had hung up. I lowered my phone and looked out at the mountains rolling across the horizon. The breeze carried the scent of grass and trees. It didn't help. Nothing could. But that was fine. This was just the start. My screen barely went dark before it lit up again. Luther? I answered. Jolene, you've gone too far. His voice sounded exhausted, but the anger underneath was obvious. Do you have any idea how much damage that video caused? How much? I leaned back. Be specific. Did your company stock tank? Is the board getting ready to kick you out? Bullseye. The line went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice had gone cold. I'm giving you one last chance. Take the video down, then make a public statement saying it was an AI fake. Tell everyone you're mentally unstable and spread false rumors on purpose. Do that, and I'll consider forgiving you. I might even let you keep your position as Mrs. Boyd. Forgive me? Let me keep my position? I laughed. Lucky me. My voice dripped with sarcasm. Don't bother. Let's get divorced. What did you say? Luther snapped. Don't push your luck. Without me, you're nothing. That's not for you to decide. I hung up. The second I set my phone down, the teen chat blew up. The usually dead chat was suddenly alive. Someone cautiously tagged me. Jolene, is everything okay? We saw what's been going around online and got worried. My DMs blew up too. Some wanted the tea, others were faking sympathy. I skimmed through them and dropped 2 words into the teen chat. I'm fine. Then I packed my bags, checked out of the lodge, and headed back to the city. The scenery blurred past outside the window. I rested my head against the glass and smiled. How could I not be fine? I was about to tear every one of those hypocrites apart. I'd be better than fine. I didn't go back to that so-called home. Instead, I checked into a hotel and spent a day recovering. After a shower and a full night's sleep, I stood in front of the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, but there wasn't a trace of defeat in them. The next morning, I grabbed the divorce papers I prepared long ago. And headed straight for Everlux Ventures. The receptionist froze when she saw me. She looked like she wanted to stop me. I walked right past her. All across the office, people stopped what they were doing to stare. Some looked curious, some looked smug, some looked sympathetic, others looked entertained. Whispers followed me down the hall. That's Mr. Boyd's wife, right? I heard she sold the video online. Brutal. Seriously, and Miss Vick was her best friend? That's rough. Mr. Boyd really screwed up this time. Guy had a wife and still cheated. Guess it finally caught up to him. I ignored them. My heels clicked across the floor as I headed for Luther's office. Doc, come in. His voice was already irritated. I pushed open the door. Luther wasn't alone. Cecilia was there. She wore a white dress, her eyes red and watery, like she'd been crying for hours. Curled up against Luther's side, she sniffled softly. The second she saw me, she stiffened. Then she lowered her head and wiped away a tear. The perfect victim. Luther's face darkened immediately. Jolene, what are you doing here? Haven't you embarrassed me enough? I walked to his desk and dropped the divorce papers in front of him. Slap. The sound cut through the room. Divorce? I looked him straight in the eye. And you're leaving with nothing? Luther laughed like I'd just told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. He shot to his feet and planted both hands on the desk. You want me to leave with nothing? Have you lost your mind? You think you can do that based on what? I didn't blink. Because the startup money for this company came from me. Because every major crisis this company survived over the last 3 years was solved through my connections and resources. Because you cheated on me with my best friend during our marriage. I held his stare. Need more reasons? My words hit hard. Luther went pale, then red. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, still nothing. Then Cecilia suddenly stood and came over. She grabbed my hand, sobbing, putting on her best guilty act. Jolene, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. Don't blame Luther. I seduced him. I couldn't help how I felt. Please don't divorce him, okay? I don't want you two fighting because of me. I don't want to wreck your family. If you and Luther make up, I'll leave the city tonight. I'll disappear from your lives forever. Tears rolled down her face. Anyone else might have bought it. I looked at her fake, teary eyes, pulled my hand free, and smiled cool. Then disappear. Cecilia froze. Clearly, she hadn't expected that. I added, but Luther still pays. It takes 2 people to end up in bed. You both starred in that video, so you both deal with the fallout. Cecilia, your little games don't work on me. Her face went white. Even her tears stopped. She just stood there, lost. Luther shook with rage. Before he could snap, someone knocked. His secretary hurried in. Mr. Boyd, the board members are here. The meeting room is ready. They're waiting for you. Luther sucked in a breath and swallowed his anger. Then he glared at me like he wanted me dead. I looked between them, one humiliated and furious, one ghost pale. Honestly, beautiful. I grabbed my bag and turned for the door. Jolene Johnston, just wait. Luther's voice followed me, sharp and threatening. I won't let this go. I stopped and looked back. My smile stayed cold. I'll be waiting. But you should sign the papers. Trust me, you don't want to find out what happens if you don't. After leaving Everlux Ventures, I went back to the hotel and started gathering evidence. Luther's transfer records, his messages with Cecilia, hotel check-in records. I had backups of everything. I just never thought I'd use them. Back then, I still cared about my marriage. I still cared about our friendship. Now, that was a joke. A one-sided one. I expected Luther to come after me first. Cecilia beat him to it. That night, while scrolling through my phone, I saw the long post she dropped online. The title was hard to miss, 7 years of friendship. Why destroy my life? In it, she painted herself as the sad, loyal victim. She admitted she and Luther were truly in love, but claimed my marriage had been dead for years. She said I was cold, that I'd shut Luther out emotionally. And that I was so controlling he couldn't even talk to other women. She even claimed I tried to control his job. The video, according to her, it was just one tragic mistake between 2 people swept up by passion. Meanwhile, I had supposedly sold it to an adult site out of jealousy and revenge. To make her story more believable, Cecilia even came with receipts. Screenshots of my texts with Luther. Except they'd been carefully edited. She cut out all the important parts. And left only the messages where I reminded him to come home or asked about work, turning concern into control. She also posted proof that I'd missed family dinners and get-togethers because of work. According to her, that meant I didn't care about my marriage. The post blew up almost immediately. The comments were a war zone. Some people called her out for sleeping with her best friend's husband and then playing the victim. Most weren't that smart. They bought every word. Her best friend went way too far. Yeah, her husband cheated, but selling the video online is crazy. 7 years of friendship and she does this? She's cold. Based on those screenshots, the friend seems super controlling. I'd be miserable in that marriage too. Honestly, the husband and Cecilia are the real couple here. The wife sounds like the third wheel. As the drama spread, people started digging into my life. My phone number, my social media. Even the research institute where I worked. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Some messages were insults, some were threats. Others were self-appointed Luther and Cecilia fans demanding an apology, demanding I take down the video, and demanding justice for their favorite couple. I scrolled through the garbage without blinking. Then I saved screenshots of Cecilia's post, every hateful message that followed, one by one. Someday, every single screenshot would come in handy. The next morning, I requested extended leave from the institute. Then I gathered my evidence and headed to a law firm. I'd assumed finding a divorce attorney would be easy. I had proof, I had evidence, I had a cheating husband. Turns out, none of that mattered. I went to 3 firms. Every attorney turned me down. Some were polite about it, others weren't, but all of them avoided looking me in the eye. At the 4th firm, a female attorney finally pulled me aside. "Miss Johnston, it's not that nobody wants to help you." She lowered her voice. "The Boyd family has already contacted every major law firm in the city. Anyone who takes your case becomes their enemy." I froze. My grip tightened around the folder in my hands. I hadn't expected Luther to go that far. He'd blocked every road he could find. After thanking her, I walked out onto the crowded street. The sun was bright. It didn't make a difference. Was I really supposed to let them get away with this? Let them rewrite the story? Let them take everything while I walked away humiliated? No. Luther, Cecilia, you wanted me to lose. You wanted me destroyed. Too bad. I pulled out my phone and started looking up attorneys in the next state over. Before I could book a ticket, my phone rang. "Luther." I answered. His voice carried a smug satisfaction. He wasn't even trying to hide it. "You've been to quite a few law firms, haven't you? Funny how nobody will take your case. If you're smart, come home tonight and let's discuss the divorce like adults. Stop wasting your time. You're not beating me." Of course, I knew better. This wasn't a discussion, it was a setup. They'd already prepared something. Now they were waiting for me to walk straight into it. But I didn't have much of a choice. I had to go. Besides, I wanted to see what kind of trap they'd set. After hanging up, I went back to the hotel, packed my things, and clipped a hidden camera to my collar. Then I took a cab to the Boyd estate. When I pushed open the front door, the living room was bright. Still felt cold. Luther sat on the couch, his face dark. Around him were my father, my stepmother, and a bunch of relatives from my side. Every single one looked at me like I was the problem. I had barely stepped inside when one of them snapped, "Jolene, why are you being so difficult? What did Luther even do to you? He made the kind of mistake all men make. Did you really have to blow it up and embarrass the Boyd family?" Another jumped in. "Exactly. Luther's career is taking off. After your stunt, his whole future could be ruined. That's vicious. Did you even think about your husband?" Someone else scoffed. "You're too sensitive, too petty. A man as successful as Luther is obviously going to have women around him. Besides, he didn't bring her home. That means he still cares about you and this family. Know when to stop. Delete everything online and go back to Luther. Let it go." The blame came from every side. I stood there silent. Not one of them cared about the truth. Not one asked how much it hurt. All they knew how to do was blame me and protect Luther. In their eyes, a successful man could do whatever he wanted. His wife just had to take it. Otherwise, she was difficult, a problem. Eventually, they ran out of things to say. The room went quiet. That was when Erica spoke. "Jolene, I know you're hurt. Luther was wrong. He took my hand. All fake concern. But he knows that. He's willing to make it up to you. Stop making this bigger than it needs to be, okay? Keeping the family together matters most." My father nodded. "Erica's right. Stop obsessing over it. Go back and live a good life with Luther. Focus on being a good wife and mother instead of causing trouble." I stared at their fake faces. My heart went cold. I didn't nod. I didn't argue. I just stood there. The second they saw I wasn't giving in, their patience snapped. My father's face darkened. He stared at me, his voice dropping into a threat. "Jolene, I'm trying to be reasonable. Don't forget your mother fought hard to arrange this match. Before she died, she pulled every string she had for your future with Luther. If you divorce him now, how will you face her?" He paused. His eyes went colder. "And one more thing. If you keep pushing this, if you insist on divorcing Luther and destroying everything, then I'll have to reconsider whether you get your mother's ashes back." The room went deathly silent. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so unbelievably cruel that my brain refused to process it any other way. I looked at my father slowly. You are threatening me with my mother's ashes? His expression didn't change. They're still in the family mausoleum, he said evenly. Legally, they're under my authority. If you continue embarrassing this family, then you clearly aren't worthy of taking them. Every word landed like a knife. The last gift my mother had left me. The only thing I had begged for after her funeral. He was using her as leverage. Erica sighed dramatically. Jolene, your father doesn't want to do this. She squeezed his arm like she was the reasonable one. Just apologize to Luther. Sign whatever agreement he prepared. Everyone can move on. I slowly looked around the room. Every relative avoided my eyes. Not one person objected. Not one person thought threatening a dead woman's ashes was wrong. My hidden camera quietly recorded every second. Good. Very good. Luther finally spoke. His voice softened into fake concern. I don't want things to get ugly. He slid a thick folder across the coffee table. I've already prepared everything. I picked it up. The title alone almost made me laugh. Marriage Reconciliation Agreement. Not divorce papers. A reconciliation agreement. I flipped through it. Every page became more ridiculous than the last. If I signed, I had to publicly admit the video was AI generated. I had to apologize to Cecilia online. I had to pay Luther $20 million in reputational damages. I agreed never to interfere with his friendships with women. I agreed to quit my job and become a full-time housewife. I agreed that any future marital disputes would remain private. And my fingers stopped. There it was. A clause stating that if Luther had children outside the marriage, I would raise them as my own. I stared at the page. Then looked up. Luther. He smiled. I knew you'd understand. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. Not a polite laugh. A full, uncontrollable laugh that echoed through the living room. Everyone stared. Erica frowned. What are you laughing at? I wiped tears from my eyes. I'm laughing because this has to be the stupidest legal document I've ever read. Luther's face darkened. You think this is funny? No. I tossed the agreement onto the table. I think you're delusional. His smile disappeared. You have two choices. He leaned forward. Sign. Or lose everything. I'll keep the house. I'll keep the company. I'll make sure no lawyer represents you. I'll make sure no company hires you. And your mother's ashes. He glanced toward my father. You'll never see them again. He thought I'd break. Instead, I reached into my bag. Everyone watched. Luther smirked. Finally. I knew you'd. I pulled out another folder. Not a contract. Evidence. I dropped it onto the table. Photos. Bank transfers. Hotel receipts. Private messages. Flight records. Credit card statements. Everything. Luther frowned. What is this? Evidence. His expression barely changed. So? I smiled. I've already made 3 encrypted copies. His smile faded. I've scheduled automatic emails. His eyes narrowed. What emails? If anything happens to me. If I disappear. If I'm threatened. If I'm arrested. If I fail to cancel the timer. Every reporter in the country gets everything. Silence. Complete silence. I watched the confidence drain from Luther's face. Then I looked at my father. Oh. I almost forgot. I tapped my collar casually. You know what's interesting? Everyone followed my hand. I've been recording since I walked through the front door. My father's face turned white. Erica gasped. Luther shot to his feet. You recorded us? I did. You can't. I already have. He lunged across the table. Give it to me. I stepped back easily. He grabbed for my collar. I caught his wrist. Careful. My smile widened. Assault looks terrible on camera. He froze. His hand stopped inches from me. I lowered my voice. So does threatening someone with their mother's ashes. I turned toward my father. And extortion. Then to Erica. And coercion. Finally. I looked at every relative sitting there. And every single one of you just witnessed it. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. For the first time that evening. They looked afraid. Not of me. Of what had just been recorded. I picked up my bag. Walked toward the door. Behind me Luther finally shouted. Jolene. I didn't turn around. You'll regret this. I paused with one hand on the doorknob. No. I looked back over my shoulder. You made one mistake. You thought I came here alone. The front door opened. Standing outside were two uniformed police officers. Behind them. A woman in a tailored navy suit adjusted her glasses. She looked directly at me. Miss Johnston? I smiled. You made it. She nodded. I'm Attorney Grace Shin. She stepped inside, holding up her bar identification. I apologize for the delay. Then she looked directly at Luther Boyd. I've agreed to represent Mrs. Johnston. And before discussing the divorce. She glanced around the silent room. I'd like to ask why my client is being threatened with the unlawful withholding of her late mother's ashes. No one answered. Because every word had just been captured on camera. The living room felt like it had been vacuum sealed. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Attorney Grace Shin calmly closed the front door behind her while the two police officers remained near the entrance. She set her briefcase on the coffee table. I'll ask again. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Who just threatened my client with the unlawful withholding of her late mother's ashes? My father's lips parted. That's a family matter. Grace smiled politely. No. It became a legal matter the second you used human remains to coerce someone into signing a legal agreement. She picked up the reconciliation agreement from the table and flipped through it. The more she read, the higher one eyebrow climbed. Finally, she looked at Luther. You drafted this? Luther straightened his tie. My legal department. So yes. She nodded. You expected your wife to admit to fabricating evidence, pay you $20 million, surrender her career, and agree to raise any children you had with another woman. She looked almost impressed. I've seen predatory contracts before. This is certainly ambitious. One of the relatives muttered, she's making a big deal out of nothing. Grace turned toward him. Would you like to repeat that for the officers? He immediately looked at the floor. The officers exchanged a glance but remained silent. Grace reached into her briefcase. I'd also like to clarify something. She placed a stack of documents beside my evidence. I represent Miss Johnston because someone contacted me yesterday. Luther frowned. I made sure every major law firm refused her. I know. Grace smiled. Unfortunately for you, my firm isn't based in this state. His face stiffened. And after learning why 4 firms suddenly declined an exceptionally strong divorce case. She slid another document onto the table. I became curious. What is that? Luther demanded. A complaint. Against Everlux Ventures. And against you personally. For possible witness intimidation, tortious interference with legal representation, and abuse of corporate influence. The color drained from Luther's face. My father slammed his hand onto the table. That's ridiculous. Grace looked at him. So you're denying you coordinated efforts to prevent your daughter from obtaining legal counsel? He stopped. Because the answer was yes. And denying it could become a problem if phone records surfaced. Grace noticed his hesitation. I thought so. She turned toward me. Miss Johnston, with your permission? I nodded. She opened my evidence folder. Everything was meticulously organized. Hotel invoices. Bank transfers. Screenshots. Metadata reports. Location histories. Even security footage stills from the hotel lobby. Grace arranged them into neat piles. Luther Boyd. She tapped one receipt. You told the public your marriage had been over for years. She slid over another document. Yet 3 days before your anniversary, you purchased your wife a diamond bracelet. Another. 2 days before the affair, you introduced her at a charity gala as the love of your life. Another. 1 day before cheating, you transferred $100,000 into Miss Cecilia Vick's account. Cecilia's head snapped up. What? Grace didn't stop. The memo line reads. She adjusted her glasses. New apartment. Don't tell Jay. Every eye in the room turned toward Luther. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Cecilia looked stunned. You said. Her voice trembled. You said that money was for your overseas investment. Luther didn't answer. She grabbed his arm. Luther. Nothing. Grace quietly continued sorting papers. There are also 12 months of financial records showing gifts, rent payments, luxury vacations, and jewelry purchased for Miss Vick. She looked at Cecilia. I'm afraid your online statement claiming this relationship was based solely on love appears inconsistent. Cecilia slowly let go of Luther's arm. You. Her voice cracked. You kept saying you couldn't divorce because Jolene controlled the finances. Grace slid over another bank statement. Mrs. Boyd actually paid off several of Mr. Boyd's business debts during that same period. Another silence. Then, Cecilia slapped Luther. Crack. The sound echoed through the mansion. You lied to me. Luther grabbed his burning cheek. Are you insane? You told me you were trapped. You promised you'd marry me after the investment round. You said you had no money because Jolene monitored everything. His face twisted. Shut up. Wrong thing to say. Very wrong. Cecilia's eyes widened. Then years of resentment exploded. You used me. She pointed wildly at him. You said sleeping with me was proof you loved me. You said sending that video would force Jolene to divorce you faster. The room froze. Even Grace stopped writing. I smiled. Interesting. I hadn't known that part. Cecilia realized what she'd just admitted. She covered her mouth. Too late. Grace calmly looked at one of the officers. I believe everyone heard that. The officer nodded once. I did. Grace made another note. Thank you. Luther looked ready to strangle Cecilia. You idiot. You told me to keep quiet. She screamed back. You called me 23 times making me memorize that stupid online story. You even had your PR team rewrite my post. Another silence. One of the relatives whispered. PR team? Grace looked almost delighted. Oh. Now that's useful. She wrote another line. Potential evidence of coordinated defamation. Luther realized the room was slipping completely out of his control. His polished image. His perfect affair. His carefully crafted victim narrative. It was unraveling one sentence at a time. And the hidden camera clipped to my collar captured every second. Luther finally snapped. Enough. His roar echoed through the mansion. Everyone flinched. He pointed at Cecilia with a shaking finger. You've ruined everything. Cecilia stared at him in disbelief. I ruined everything? She laughed bitterly. You told me we'd be together. You told me Jolene was just an obstacle. You said once Everlux's next funding round closed, you'd divorce her. You promised me the position of Mrs. Boyd. Every sentence dug the hole deeper. Attorney Gratian didn't interrupt. She simply wrote another note. Then another. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Boyd. Would you mind repeating that your company used a PR team to coordinate false public statements? Luther's jaw clenched. I'm not answering another question. That's your right. Grace calmly closed her notebook. You can answer them later under oath. That sentence landed like a brick. One of my uncles suddenly stood. This has gone far enough. He pointed at me. Jolene, look what you've done. Families argue. Families forgive. Why are you trying to destroy everyone? I looked at him. For money? He blinked. What? How much did Luther give you? His face changed. Just for a second. But I caught it. Grace caught it too. I didn't. You drove 3 hours to pressure me. You've never visited me in years. You suddenly care about my marriage? I smiled. So. How much? He couldn't answer. Another relative looked away. Then another. Grace quietly asked, Miss Johnston, do you believe payments were made? I do. She nodded. Then we'll subpoena the relevant bank records. Half the room visibly paled. Apparently I wasn't the only one who had guessed correctly. My father suddenly slammed his fist on the table. Enough. No daughter of mine is taking her own family to court. I looked at him. No. I won't. His expression eased for a fraction of a second. Then I finished. I'm taking you as individuals. His face drained of color. The moment you chose extortion over family, you stopped being one. He actually staggered backward. For years, I had begged for scraps of affection from him. Approval. Recognition. Anything. Now. There was nothing left to beg for. Only accountability. Grace reached into her briefcase again. Speaking of accountability. She pulled out another folder. This concerns ownership of Everlux Ventures. Luther frowned. What about it? Grace placed incorporation documents on the table. The original capitalization records. I obtained certified copies this morning. She pointed to the first page. When Everlux was incorporated, the initial capital contribution was made by. She looked at me. Miss Jolene Johnston. Gasps filled the room. Grace continued. Furthermore. The original shareholder agreement was never amended. Luther frowned harder. It was. No. Grace slid another document over. It was drafted. It was never executed. He grabbed the papers. His hands began shaking. No. It should have been signed. Grace finished the sentence for him. After your second funding round. It wasn't. I smiled. I remember. You asked me to sign dozens of documents that week. I was leaving for a 6-month research expedition. You said we'd do the rest when I came back. I never did. Grace folded her hands. As a result. She looked directly at Luther. Based on these certified records. Mrs. Johnston still owns 48% of Everlux Ventures. Silence. Absolute silence. Even the air conditioning seemed loud. Luther stared at the papers. No. That's impossible. It isn't. Grace smiled slightly. In fact. You've been making major corporate decisions without the approval required under your own governing documents. One of the relatives whispered. 48%? Another murmured. She's practically a co-owner. Grace nodded. Which means she may also have claims regarding profits, dividends, executive compensation, and potentially unauthorized corporate actions. Luther's breathing became uneven. Everything he'd threatened me with. The company. The money. The power. It suddenly wasn't entirely his. His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. 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 Finally, he answered. What? His expression changed instantly. What do you mean the board voted? He stood frozen. No, that's impossible. Emergency meeting? Interim investigation? His knees almost buckled. He slowly lowered the phone. The room watched him. The board. His voice was barely audible. Placed me on administrative leave. No one spoke. They've frozen my executive authority. He looked at me. Pending an internal investigation. I tilted my head. What happened to without me, you're nothing? For the first time since I'd met him. Luther Boyd had no answer. The next 48 hours turned into a bloodbath. Financially. Legally. Socially. The board suspended Luther indefinitely and hired a forensic accounting firm. His office was sealed. His company laptop was confiscated. Every executive email he'd ever sent was preserved. The directors wanted to know one thing. Had their CEO been using company money to finance his affair? The answer came fast. Yes. Luxury handbags. Private vacations. Rent for Cecilia's apartment. Even the flowers he'd sent her on Valentine's Day. Paid for with Everlux's corporate account. The board didn't just fire him. They sued him. Cecilia's life exploded next. Internet detectives found years of lies within hours. She'd claimed to be financially independent. Bank records showed Luther paying almost every major expense. She'd claimed she never wanted to replace me. Someone dug up old posts where she'd joked, "Everything your best friend owns looks better on you." People remembered she'd worn my birthday pajamas in the video. That became a meme overnight. Sponsors canceled every partnership she had. Her employer terminated her for violating their public conduct policy. Within 3 days. She had no job. No income. No boyfriend. Then the police called. She was asked to come in for questioning regarding the recording and distribution of the original intimate video. Because regardless of what I later did, she had admitted she was the one who created and sent it. Her own livestream confession had become evidence. Luther tried one last desperate move. He held a press conference. Cameras flashed as he walked onto the stage. He looked exhausted. I've made mistakes. I was manipulated. The affair happened during a difficult period in my marriage. And I hope the public won't continue attacking Miss Cecilia Vick. Watching from my hotel room, I laughed. Manipulated? 2 hours later, Cecilia posted every voice message he'd ever sent her. I'll leave Jolene after the funding round. You're the woman I actually love. Don't worry about the money. I'll handle everything. The internet didn't know who to mock first. They settled on both. My father wasn't spared either. The recording of him threatening my mother's ashes leaked. Not from me. One of the relatives secretly uploaded it after realizing he might become implicated. Public opinion turned instantly. A television host summed it up perfectly. A father who uses his deceased wife's ashes to blackmail his own daughter has lost any moral authority. The cemetery board opened an investigation. Within a week, I received a court order. My mother's ashes were legally released to me. I picked them up personally. I've got you now, Mom. For the first time in years. I cried. 3 months later, the divorce hearing lasted less than an hour. The judge looked over the mountain of evidence. The affair. The financial misconduct. The coercion. The threats. The edited screenshots. The coordinated online defamation. Judgment came quickly. The marriage was dissolved. Luther was found at fault. He received no sympathy from the court. Because of my ownership stake, he also had to buy out my shares at fair market value. The amount. Just over $86 million. He nearly collapsed when he heard the number. His lawyers begged for payment installments. The judge agreed, but only under strict court supervision. As for Cecilia, she stood outside the courthouse waiting for Luther. I gave up everything for you. He walked right past her. Without saying a word. She screamed after him. He never looked back. The reporters captured every second. The video went viral. The caption read, "When two cheaters discover neither of them was worth cheating for. Neither of them ever recovered their reputation."